Well, we're live, or we hope we're live, on Facebook. Hi, everybody. So glad to be with you today, doing a special tribute to Henry Mancini. And in a moment, you should see me. Here I am. Great to see you. Hi, everyone. Nicole Pesce here with a live tribute to Henry Mancini. We're going to get going with some music. Here's a wonderful tune from 1958 called Mr. Lucky. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in and joining. So April is Henry Mancini's birthday month. He was born April 16th, 1924. So this year marks 96 years celebrating the music of a legend. American composer, conductor, pianist, flute player, extraordinaire, so many things. The wonderful music of Henry Mancini. So I'm going to get going with another piece that Mancini composed and tell you the story after you hear this one. This is, of course, a famous tune by Henry known as Peter Gunn. And this is the main theme from that show, the Peter Gunn theme by Henry Mancini. Thank you. So, the Peter Gunn theme by Henry Mancini. And there's a very, very interesting story behind that song. As a matter of fact, Henry, or Hank as he likes to be called, was really attributing all of his success to a single haircut. He had just lost his job as a staff writer when he was 36 years old for Universal. When he went in, he still had his studio pass, and he went in not to work, but just to get a haircut on studio. And after the haircut, he went outside and ran into Blake Edwards. And Blake was having a meeting about a new show that ended up being Peter Gunn. And he said, "Hey, Hank, would you consider doing a new show for me?" And Hank said, "Sure, I don't have a lot of work right now." And that's how Hank got the job working and scoring Peter Gunn. So I think it's much more than the haircut, but he did like to attribute it to that. But now here's another song, completely different genre, style, and feel, even though it's also from Peter Gunn. And this is a beautiful song written by, of course, Henry Mancini, with some lyrics later added by Ray Livingston. It's called Dreamsville from 1959, from the same show, and such a beautiful, beautiful piece. Dreamsville now for you by Henry Mancini. Thank you so much. Well, I don't know about you, but that took me pretty much to Dreamsville. And what a difference of styles, and just the composition artistry there is just amazing between the two songs. So Dreamsville by Henry Mancini. Well, this next song won Henry the Academy Award for Best Original Song. It's of course most associated with Andy Williams, who loved to sing, all of Henry's work. And we're of course talking about the wonderful, amazing Breakfast at Tiffany's movie starring Audrey Hepburn with lyricist Johnny Mercer. And another interesting thing is that this tune really relaunched Johnny Mercer's career. It had stalled because of the kind of the rock and roll phase that was going on. So this kind of brought Johnny back. And most of you know now we're talking about the Breakfast at Tiffany's, Henry Mancini. You can see the beautiful picture of Audrey here. And so we're going to do a special version of Moon River. And my goodness, and it's just timeless and classic, and I hope you enjoy it. And we'll see. I never play this song the same way twice, so I don't know how I will play it today, but it's one of my all-time faves, Henry Mancini, Moon River. And for those of you that are enjoying that second keyboard camera view, I'm going to ask the camera gods to adjust that just a little bit, so it's safe now to adjust, and we'll get you a full, nice screen view, just a little out. There we go. Nice. All right, so here's Moon River for you. through. It doesn't get any better than that. One of the all-time classics, Moon River. Well, moving along in a different direction now. This next tune shows Henry's really unique ability to write for every movie scene, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to create the right tempo, the pace, the timing. Everything had to be perfect for the scene he was writing for. So this next one, well, you know, he got a Grammy Award for Best Instrumental Arrangement, and he saw the scene, and in it there's a character named Dallas. We're talking about the movie Atari. And Dallas is taking 3 baby elephants down to the water hole to bathe. And so if you're a composer, what do you do for this? Well, he said, I've got to make it sound like they're kind of walking and boogieing on down, so it's got to be a boogie woogie. And he said, yes, it's Boogie Woogie 8 to the bar for this. And sure enough, you know, he came up with this amazing thing. There's a little Atari, for those of you remembering the movie, and you might even have that album. We're talking about the wonderful song Baby Elephant Walk from 1962. And yes, it's going to be a little bit boogie woogie, a little bit blues, but it's definitely cinematic and an overture of that. So here is Henry's Baby Elephant Walk. Thank you. Well, Mancini was born April 16th. He was born to a family of Italian immigrants, and his dad was a steel worker and a laborer, but he also in his spare time played flute. So Henry, growing up as a boy, he really preferred football to the music, but his dad persuaded him to study some flute and later on some piano. And his dad took him to the cinema when he was only 8 years old, and that's when Henry fell in love with the cinema and knew he was going to be a composer. So in spite of his father's wishes for him to become a teacher, he said, no, I am going to become a composer. And that's set out a long journey for Henry, but we're certainly glad that he did make that decision. Now, equally important to his compositions are his arrangements, and his ability to arrange, conduct, and lead an orchestra were unparalleled. We'll hear that now in this next piece. This is from 1963, and Bobby Darin, Andy Williams, a lot of people have covered this, but it's the wonderful Charade. Henry Mancini's Charade. This next song can be recognized with only 4 notes. And with the next 4 notes. Pretty much it's that kind of catchy song, but this is the amazing, wonderful Pink Panther, and we have to just, I love this cartoon. So the Pink Panther film score composed by Henry Mancini. This was the main theme on the soundtrack album. The single reached the top 10, won 3 Grammy Awards, and this is, perhaps his most successful piece. And I'm going to do a very special version tonight, arranged by Jacob Kohler. Jacob, if you're watching, thank you for this wonderful arrangement. I hope I do it justice. Jacob used to live right here in Arizona, and now he's enjoying success in Japan. And this is a really funky, new, modern version of Henry Mancini's classic, The Pink Panther. Thank you. Well, we'd be remiss if we didn't include a samba, especially one arranged and composed like this by Henry Mancini from the same movie, The Pink Panther. This is known as It Had Better Be Tonight, or as the Italians say, meglio stasera. And it's been covered by everyone from Michael Bublé all the way back to the early Pink Panther movie. And it's a great samba, a great example of a Henry Mancini classic arrangement. It Had Better Be Tonight. Thank you. Henry Mancini's It Had Better Be Tonight. Well, continuing on now with the Henry Mancini tribute, we are now going to do two waltzes for a nice change of pace. These are beauties indeed. Henry wrote Dear Heart, and it was featured in the movie of the same name. This was really sung so well by Andy Williams, to name a few. And then following that, the medley will include The Sweetheart Tree, another wonderful waltz made popular not only by Andy Williams, but Johnny Mathis in 1965. So some beautiful waltz classics here. We have Johnny Mathis, and then Andy Williams. And of course, the two songs, Dear Heart, 1964, Sweetheart Tree, 1965, and Henry Mancini. Thank you. This next tune goes out to Peter Zale. Peter, if you're watching, great number and even better arrangement and selection. Audrey Hepburn, Albert Finney, this stars in the romantic comedy drama from 1967, written by the legendary Mancini. Here is Two for the Road. you. Thank you. Well, this next tune is a lesser-known Mancini classic. It was done by the likes of Sarah Vaughan and Johnny Hartman, to name just a couple. It is known as Slow Hot Wind. Another tune, a term used for it is lujon, which happens to be the percussive instrument that is used in the recording. So some of you may know it as Slow Hot Wind, some may remember it as lujon. It's originally from 1959, from the Mr. Lucky soundtrack, but Henry Mancini brought it back in the 70s, 76 in particular, and had a couple of adult contemporary hits with it. So if you get a chance, please check out Johnny Hartman's version. It is just incredible. I'm going to do a little bit of that now. This is Slow Hot Wind, lujon. Slow Hot Wind, and a nice one, and one that I've just learned. Hopefully you enjoyed that one. Well, it's been so nice hanging out with you today on Facebook Live. Thanks for tuning in. thanks to the wonderful folks that are here. We're all social distancing and doing our part, but we have a beautiful live room to do this in and some beautiful pianos. So thanks to everyone. Thank you, Ken, so much for making this happen. And today is not Henry's birthday, but it's his whole birthday month. So I do want to wish him a very, very special birthday month. And a couple of final closing things about Henry here, as you'll see. He had 4,000 people join him at his final birthday celebration. And that was in April of 1996. It was a beautiful celebration. One of the highlights for Henry was that he was serenaded during the celebration by none other than Luciano Pavarotti. And that's quite the gift. Of course, Julie Andrews was there, Andy Williams, all of his people that just loved him and loved to sing his music were there. And he was working on Victor Victoria, the screen Broadway adaptation of that. He never quite got to finish that, but he passed away in June that year. And there's his wife, Ginny. They were married for 43 years. And his kids, all three of them, are following in his footsteps, continuing his legacy. We have Monica, who is a singer, Grammy Award-winning singer in her own right. And then we also have Felice, who is doing a lot of nonprofit organizations. And then his son, Chris, is a composer and well-respected in Los Angeles and the Hollywood area. So there's the beautiful Mancini family. And we would be remiss without this last piece, which I, of course, saved for last because I think it's, well, it is just classic and needs almost no introduction. We're talking about the song, The Days of Wine and Roses. And that goes back to 62. So that one I did skip order around a little bit in. But this is from the movie of the same title, Days of Wine and Roses. And for that one, he won several awards, and the tune was celebrated for many, many years to come. Now, I'm going to do a special rendition of Wine and Roses. Some of you on Facebook may have seen this photo. This painting courtesy of Suzanne Lansford, and it is of myself and Oscar Peterson seated at the piano, and this is back from his 1965. I, of course, worship Oscar Peterson, and Oscar plays a very interesting rendition of Henry's Days of Wine and Roses. It's on Oscar's We Get Requests album with Ray Brown. So in tribute to two masters, Oscar Peterson, Henry Mancini, here is kind of, you know, if I was talking to Oscar right there and asking him how he would play Wine and Roses, this is hopefully how I think it would go. So for the final tune and final number for this, Henry Mancini's Days of Wine and Roses, courtesy of Oscar Peterson's arranging skills. Thank you so much for joining. Please stay tuned through Facebook and my website, NicolePesce.com, for more upcoming events like this. I'm going to play us out with a little reprise of that. Have a wonderful evening and see you very soon. I'm Nicole Pesce. Thank you and have a great evening.